Tusum Sanje Tam Jejung or Ranching Regions of Shabda Cutting Sumba Mebe, Pandana Matam Beshaji. Do Jumamba, Rodo, the Gosam Gova, Shimbesha, Sashi, Josu, Joan, and set up Tamji, no one Vajas on those Fountain Dorses, Requestion Lama, Karma, Chico Kunjin, Sisha Bajuri, Damna Yorma. Two Bunji Shabon, Sutrayana, Persian Jamdala, Andrew Zayu, who went to Drame to Jong, Chudu Javon, Bemanjon, Dona Sonjo, Demba Bege, since there was a Javin, so Tisha Dembe, Jansen, so on, Yunden Sanje, Kunanyam Nayang, Cutting Sanje, Lejan Hawaii. So Lame Shabba Chansen, Dason Rove, Lama, Jula, Tong. Good afternoon. Welcome back to our Dhamma discussion. Now, as I do usually, remind you to generate or regenerate bodhicitta in order to benefit all sentient beings. Because of this, we are conducting the Buddha Dhamma with listening, reflecting, and meditation. My mind is dull, not so clear, so I hope I can carry on now what the topic today is, Chirim and Dzogrim. Now, in Tibetan word, we use Chirim for the process of generating or creation, and the other one, Tibetan words used for Tibetan words use Dzogrim, which means the process of accomplishment. Practice of Vajrayana is very much related to these two processes, but for those who are lack of knowledge of these two, then one should have knowledge of the general framework of the basic idea of the Vajrayana Buddhism. So therefore I need to explain a little bit what does Vajrayana mean. Now, in order to practice or enter into the circle of or the mandala of Vajrayana, one should know what does the Tantra means. In Sanskrit, there's a called Tantrayana or the Mantrayana. In teaching of Sutrayana, there are, as you know, the teachings of the Mahayana view, teachings of Mahayana meditation, and the teachings of Mahayana conduct. And these three very much are based on two truths: the relative truth and the absolute truth. Many masters in the past saying that with the knowledge of or the practice of the Sutrayana, so those who are able to bring these two truths together into your practice, eventually as a result of these two practice, the relative truth or knowledge of these two truths, help us to get rid of the level of our affliction. And it's quite clear and avoid the obvious that just simply practicing of the Sutrayana may not be able to lead to the final enlightenment, which means one should enter into the practice of the Tantrana and combine these two, the practice of a Sutrayana and the practice of a Tantrana together, then one can lead to the ultimate enlightenment. Those subtle the confusions or subtle afflictions can get rid of by very subtle and a very fine, deep, concentrated meditation from the Vajrayana practice. So that's why without applying these, the powerful, subtle and the very precise, the concentrated meditation, one cannot get rid of those subtle and the tiny confusions and afflictions. That's why it calls Tantrana and it calls Mantrayana. Why Mantrayana? Man means mind and Tra means protection, protect. So mantra, so Tibetan call manta, but in the Sanskrit mantra, so that means protect your mind. In Sutrayana, there's no such term they use, so-called protect your mind. In Sutrayana, they emphasize how to get rid of these, the gross and the subtle and the negativities or the emotions or afflictions or whatever you like to call. There are so many different names, but anyhow, mainly like a practice of Madhyamika view, meditation and conduct, they emphasize how to fight those subtle and gross, the level of the confusions directly, but there is no such explanation or teaching exists in the Madhyamika tradition saying that protect your mind, or there is a continuity in your mind, the quality is continuing until you're fully enlightened. No such verses existed there. Therefore, it's called a mantra. Simply does not mean just protect your mind, but it has its own talent with a very skillful idea and a skillful method that how to protect your mind and how to overcome without abandoning these confusions, without giving up these disturbing emotions, instead giving up, bringing them confusions, bringing confusions into your practice to mingle it with the meditation, and then there is a way to overcome. Not directly saying you give up this, you abandon this, you combat this, so you enlighten. No such practices existed in the Vajrayana. So therefore, the Tantrayana or Mantrayana practice we call the skillful yana. Tibetan, we call Sutrayana as a Tsinyi Tekpa. Sutrayana is what we call Tsinyi Tekpa. What does a Tsinyi Tekpa mean? Tsinyi is characteristic. So it explains, like I give you one simple example. When our Lord Buddha turns the wheel of Dhamma, of Four Noble Truths, and then he starts the point of the characteristic of how suffering. What is suffering? Do you recognize your suffering? Do you recognize your pain? All these the characteristics he defined very precisely, let you understand, let you digest it, not only intellectual understanding, but with the experiential understanding. And then he moves to the cause of suffering, so called about this confusions and as well as these disturbing emotions. And then he goes in very detail, the explanation of this. So you see, from Sutrayana, from Theravada, and from Mahayana, and the Mahayana as well, they explain very precisely the gross and the subtle level of everything, but there's no method, subtle method, how to deal with the emotion, how to deal with the ignorance. But instead of that, he said, get rid of, finish them, then you enlightened. So therefore, the path of a precisely define the path to the enlightenment. So therefore, it's called Sinyitepa, the yana of a character, what we call the characteristic, the way explain the Sutrayana. Because of this, the practice of a Sutrayana takes long time. Of course, there is a still argument among the scholars, saying that some of them say, oh, this practice with the Sutrayana can lead to the enlightenment. And some great scholar says, no way, that without practice of a Vajrayana. So, because Sutrayana just make you a nice person, but Vajrayana is going to bring you to the right direction. So simply being you a nice person is not enough. So as a being nice person, and then you have to act nice action, and you have to go to nice person, nice place. So there's a whole complete is established in the practice of the Vajrayana. So therefore, there is some argument among the scholar which we don't need to listen. And we don't need to hear about that. Whereas Vajrayana or Tantrana does not go that much into detail or that much into the state of a precise. Vajrayana make overall transformation. They emphasize a transformation. In Tibetan words, it's called Yurwa Lamdo Chepa. Yurwa Lamdo Chepa means they bring transformation into the path. So there are two different types: the impurity of external world and the impurity of the inner world. One hand is simple, because everything you see and you have to create. Say, once you see something impure factors, then you have to force, or you have to make yourself or tell yourself, oh, this is pure, but because of illusion, I see as an impurity. And if you hear some unpleasant sound, then as a Vajrayana practitioner, you have to create yourself saying that, oh, this is what I hear is an unpleasant sound, but actually this is the sound of my guru, sound of Om Mani Padme Hum, sound of Om Mani Padme Hum, even though you don't perceive this mantra at all. But you have to create, you have to act, you have to pretend, So from the state of the pretend, now my tongue is also slip. Pretend, so not pretend. Pretend.
Okay.
Either I'm still hungry or I'm sleepy. So pretend, not pretend. You have to pretend I am deity. You have to pretend I hear sound of Om Mani Padme Hum. And you have to pretend, oh, so my mind is the Dhammadhatu. Yeah? But you are not there, actually. You are lying, actually. But you have to do. In Vajrayana, no choice. That's why in the past, those great yogis, it's called the Vajrayana, it's called the enlightened by force. Zentap ji sang yawa. Zentap in Tibetan word, Zentap is a force. So enlightened by forcing. So we have to force. So that's why what I'm trying to tell you here is I'm generalizing. We talk about the first Jerim. Jerim is the like a creation. Creation means not something there is truly, which is not really come from within, but mentally you prepare some creation. Say that my body is Yidam, my voice is the voice of Yidam, my mind is not ordinary mind, the mind of Yidam. So that sort of, and then the external world, like there is a tree and a mountain and a water house, are not really like what I see, the solid tree, solid mountain, solid water. But instead of that, this is a pure palace. So there are a lot of creations in your mind that you can have a beautiful decoration around. There's the water and there's a flower, something that not solidly existed, but from your mind, the reflected. So this is we call pure land. So external world is a pure land, inner world is a deity, guru or yidam or dharma protector. So that sort of a training or exercising in your mind is a very much a sense of like a forcefully you are transforming, because initially you are never separate from this state, which is very true, but then due to the power of ignorance that you fail to perceive or to realize such, but now because of through these two processes, then as a practice of the transformation can be adopted. So in the sense of mantra in Sanskrit, the protection of your mind, so you protect your mind through the training of these two processes. The process of the generating and the process of the accomplishment. So therefore, Yi Chok, Tibetan word, Yi Chok is a mantra. Yi is the sixth consciousness. There are six consciousness. The consciousness of I and then El until the consciousness of mind. So the crucial point here is the sixth consciousness, Yi. So that we need to protect. Why we need to protect this consciousness or the mind? Because if you fail to see through the actual consciousness or actual mind or the realistic the mind, then there is no opportunity available to you to be enlightened or to realize your own true nature. So by logic, by spiritual investigation or spiritual training of your mind, the logically training of your mind, intellectually the training of your mind is not sufficient. This is a part of a practice of a Sutrayana, whereas in the Vajrayana, they don't emphasize these three, literal or philosophy or intellectual or spiritual or anything. These parts they totally ignore. Here, direct, kind of a mind to mind, the mind of Guru, mind of a Vajra master to the mind of the disciple. So from there, then the strength or power of a transformation is transferred. In Tibetan words, Ji Ju, Lam Ju, Ndivi Ju. So when we talk about the Jut, Jut is the Tantra. It's not mantra. In Sanskrit it's called Tantra. Tantra is a Jut, the mantra is Yi Chok, and the Vajrayana is the Dorje Tekpa. So now, as a scholars, they precisely presented us what different among these three. Number one is the Tantrana as a base or the foundation. Why? Because the quality of our mind, which is the inseparability of the bliss and the emptiness, is something our very innate or very natural quality of your mind. That regardless whether you recognize it or not, or identify it or not, but general, our innate quality, the co-emergent co-emergent quality which has existed there always, and it continues. Whether your mind is temporarily deluded or not, whatsoever, regardless whatever situation, but this quality is, regardless whether you see or not see, realize or not realize, but this quality is existed and it continues until you're fully enlightened. So therefore, the use the name of Jit, that is the Tantrana. Because of this, when we hear Tantra or Jit, I'm very happy, and you will be very happy, because you or myself know, or innately, I'm Buddha. So, by practicing of Vajrayana Buddhism, particularly as a practice of a Mantrayana, Sangha Kitewa, so I need to follow the profound instruction of a Guru, and if I apply each and every single teachings that I receive, then I can be enlightened in this single life. So that's how you can establish a joy, innermost joy and a confidence. So this is the power of a Jit. Power of a Jit. Jit means continuity or continuation, that your the true nature, your true nature, inner true nature is never ceased, never changed, never diluted, never disturbed, never obscured by any single so-called negative emotions. It's innately pure, never diluted, never defiled. So that framework, overall understanding of this basic framework of what does Jit or Tantra mean, so that there you can convince yourself, so since I'm innately Buddha, now I will work with it without a doubt. And because the potentiality of the Buddha is existed within us, so it gives us strength or confidence in our minds, saying that now I know myself as a Buddha. There's no doubt if I work properly with my practice, then I will become a real Buddha. Temporarily you are artificial Buddha. Why? Because you are just imitating what, you always say, like Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, the way they committed bodhicitta, I will do the same thing. So I don't know whether you will really do or not, but at least you are imitating. And Buddha never committed negativities, so therefore I will never commit it, but you do. So that's sort of a very artificial way of, following the Buddha. But still, it comes from the very potential, like the power of the quality of the Buddhas which has existed within us. So therefore, I think I should tell myself I'm Buddha. I'm happy about that, because when I know myself I'm Buddha, I'm not realized I'm Buddha, but logically I know Buddha, and the textbook says I'm Buddha. This scholar says I'm Buddha. My Guru says you are Buddha. So I think I'm quite okay. So so that way. So what helps you? Since I'm a Buddha, I shouldn't do these bad things. So Buddha never committed the negativity. So I should keep away from the engaging negative ways, or I should really do the positive things, the virtuous actions. So you see that from the very artificial way you are correcting yourself. We need a correction, isn't it? Nobody tell you, you are Buddha, don't do this. Nobody will do that. Nobody will say. So I should say myself, I should make myself happy. I'm Buddha, better don't do this. I'm Buddha, I should do this. So the artificial way you are correcting, and you are making up, you are making up yourself a beautiful way. You are beautifying yourself. So this is how the Jirim the sense of Chirim come from this understanding. So because of the potentiality of a Buddha, which is in Tibetan word we call Jiju, but then simply knowing this is not enough. So next we move to the Mantrayana. So we have to work with our mind, because you have a basic understanding that you are Buddha, you have a potentiality of a Buddha, and innately you are never separate from the Buddha. So all these, the beautiful imagination or beautiful understanding is still there, yet if you do not work, or if you do not deal with your emotions, your temporary negativities, your temporary confusions, then there is no way to reach the state of the Vajrayana. So Vajra is the dorje, which means the unborn, the quality of unborn, and the quality of not abide somewhere, and the quality of the non-sees. Tibetan words, Jewa Mepa, and the Nepa Mepa, and then Gapa Mepa. So these three, Jewa, Nepa, Gapa Mepa. So that three, the extraordinary qualities of the mind is presented by the symbol of a Vajra, which we play usually the bell and the Vajra, right? So you shouldn't think this is just an ordinary instrument. It's a very dynamic symbolism, in the sense of like a Vajra. When you hold a Vajra, and you should understand, always reflect your mind, say that my mind is never born, never abide, and never cease. So this symbolism of a Vajra reminding you how your innate mind is. And the bell is the sound of emptiness. So when someone plays the bell and somebody can wake up from sleep, so likewise the bell symbolizes the sound of emptiness. So once you realize the emptiness, so the moment you realize the emptiness, you are free from the ignorance. So these are all called symbolism. Damaru, bell, Vajra, vase, everything is not instrument. These are great symbol of your inner most profound practice. Now, Ju, the basic potentiality. We understand, we realize that we do have potentiality. Second is the Mantrayana as a path. There's a path. As a path, Mantrayana, why we do call a path? Because then we have to work. We have to work with the two processes, that is Chirim and the Zorim. These two practices come from the Mantrayana. And once you have completed these two processes well, then as a Vajrayana, there's the Divu Tekpa. Divu Tekpa means the yana of a fruition, where you reach after you're well trained with these two processes, and then you reach to the Vajrayana. So when you call Vajrayana, or when you hear the sound of a Vajrayana, don't think this is just a yana or tradition. When we talk about the Vajrayana, it's a few images of the deities, or the wrathful protectors, or chanting the mantra, powerful mantra, or the visualize some powerful the Dhamma protectors, or do some pujas, rituals. It's not this is not sufficient. This is just the external aspect, not the real Vajrayana aspect. Real Vajrayana aspect is something that you have to transform fully your impure body, impure speech, and the impure mind into the ultimate purity of body, speech, and mind. If you are if you are able to do that, then the sense of a Vajrayana is very much that enlightened in single life, not expecting. If you expect enlightenment next year, next life, then there's no the true concept of a Vajrayana. So, talking about Vajrayana, you have to get ready, and you have to bring it into your practice and make sure that you enlighten in this life. Then you can say, I am practicing of a Vajrayana Buddhism. That's why when you chant or practice sadhana, like a sadhana of white Tara, green Tara, or Avalokiteshvara, whatsoever, you can examine, or you can observe. You see, the first you practice start with like a dakje, self visualizing as a deity. So this symbolizes your true nature and your potentiality. You are innately this yidam, that yidam. You are innately cherisic. You are innately the Tara or whatsoever. So this shows that we have a potentiality of a Buddha. Now number two, then in the practice like 3 samadhis. So 3 samadhi, then the jhana sattva, the 3 sattvas, this the samadhi sattva and the samaya sattva and the jhana sattva. So invite all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas in the form of the jhana sattva and dissolve into you. Your body, speech, and mind become the body, speech, and mind of that jhana sattva, and then for empowerment receiving from them. So that all exercise you see, it's all there. So this is the Tantrana, Mantrayana. You are exercising, you are working with your mind and your emotion. You are cleaning yourself. And then towards the end of the sadhana, that explains accomplishment, process of the accomplishment, that all the mandala dissolve into me, and all the lineage or all the deities of the male and the females are dissolved into light. Light dissolve into me. From there I realize my true nature of mind, you rest in mind. So that is the Vajrayana Dorje Thekpa, Divu Dorje Thekpa. So one sadhana carries all these 3 practices very precisely and openly. So you should know what does these 3 practices carry on. Why so important? So these are all symbol. So one individual, when you approach to the path, what practice we are supposed to do with the sadhana? So there, if you seriously practice according to the accordance of that sadhana, then one can enlighten. Like let's say one practice white Tara or green Tara, whatsoever. That sadhana, if you apply accordingly, without a mistake, then one can enlighten in this single life with the practice of a white Tara alone. No need to rely on all different kinds of the sadhana of the deities or protectors. There's the brief introduction of overall understanding or the basic framework of where this Jirim and the Zorim come from and what related to the practice of Vajrayana. Now, since we have a little bit time, so you can ask a question if you have a question.
As far as I understood, one should consequently means like continuously co powinien robić z tymi cechami? Wyobrażać? Czy? Okay. One should continuously imagine all the qualities of the enlightened mind, like being spacious, luminous, and so on. Is it right? He just asked for confirmation that he should imagine the qualities of enlightened mind to be all the time there. So this forcefully should be understood like this, that continuously should imagine that mind is spacious, luminous.
Or imagine or emerging?
Imagine.
Oh, okay. Well,
forcefully imagine.
That's quite interesting. Actually, talking about luminous mind or clarity, clear mind. Yes, should remind, because actually the mind is never separate from the state of clarity or the luminosity. But then because of this deluded mind and the obstacles of all these emotions, so we are unable to see through. So keep reminding yourself, let's say when anger arises, then anger is object of your meditation this time. So then you should see the clarity of anger. So through this, then eventually you can go into the depth of a mind, clarity of a mind. Because for the time being it's difficult without the particular emotion. So therefore in the Dzogchen teaching, Mahāti teaching, and sometimes Mahamudra, of course, but Mahamudra is not that easily convince you to do this and that. But whereas the Dzogchen is very direct and sometimes too much. So therefore it's very easy for individuals to misuse the Dzogchen practice. So they think that, oh, whatever I like, I will do that. So it's not like that way. There is their own technique, they have their own method and talent. So which you have to go according to the oral transmission or oral explanation, not just go to the bookshop and buy the book and read it. So it's not the way you practice for Mahāti. Anyhow, what I'm trying to summarize here is that, yes, the gentleman's question is good, that you keep remind the luminosity and the clarity and the brilliance of the mind, but with the object, the particular object. So with the mindfulness, when anger arises or particular emotion that arises, then you should see through the clarity and the luminosity or brilliance of that particular emotion. Then slowly you can go into the basic, the mind, the clarity of the basic mind. Okay, question? Yes.
Since the mind and the body, they are so strongly related in this life, then when we pass away, when we die, which aspect of consciousness is kind of dissolving or of the... I wanted to make sure if he speaks about the namshe, which kind of namshe, which consciousness stops when the body stops living and which is kind of continued.
Can you make it much easier? Not now, always there is a connection, yes. Yeah, basically there is always, because in the Vajrayana Buddhism, the external factors and your body and your mind, these three integrated very deeply and very profoundly. So this is the whole perspective of Vajrayana Buddhism. That's why we are practicing also the processes to transform eventually everything into one. So your question based on what is dying? Okay, I brief you simple way. My knowledge, my understanding, when person dies, the sensory levels dying actually. Yeah, clear, right? The scientifically prove it, right? And also the yogi, the practitioners, they prove also. So the physical sensory levels, the gross, when we talk about the sensory level in the Vajrayana practice, they call two consciousness. One is the gross and the other one is the subtle. When we talk about the gross part, that is the sensory levels, like a physical sensation. Yeah. So there are many different kinds anywhere. So this is dying. But mind become more into, mind goes into more deeper level. This is a gross, the consciousness and the gross mind, where you can perceive all the gross negative emotions. But as a practitioner, when they do the meditation deeply, or very familiarized with the technique of meditation, or control your mind through the meditation, then towards the end of your life, when you die, so your mind become more stable. And the mind never dies. Mind never dies. In fact, if you are a great meditator, So, because of the power of a meditation, power of a recognition of your true nature of mind, at the stage of your death or your dying, so the luminosity and the clarity of a mind become much, much clearer. So therefore, in Tibetan word, we call this Chiwa Chuku Lamchir. Chiwa Chuku Lamchir. Chiwa, death. Chuku is the luminous mind. Lamchir, at the state of your death, from there you realize the essence of your true nature mind at the time of your death. So the mind never dies. The only physical, the gross sensory level dies. Is it clear?
Głębokie.
That's the blessing.
Thank you.
And don't forget, those yogi who train well their mind with the high skillfulness of the meditation, at the time of death, what they realize is they can realize inseparability of the undeath and unborn. There is no born, so there is no die, isn't it? The death comes from the birth. If there is no birth, there is no death. So these two labeled by your dualistic mind, you realize such the birth and the death is not there. Without realizing this, so individuals have failed. So there is a suffering of a birth, there is suffering of a death, and this is we call cycling existence, korwa. Because the birth leads to death, and the death leads another the birth. This is a very general idea. Also in Madhyamika tradition, our Nagarjuna precisely explained, but in Vajrayana they explain more detail and a more precise way, talking about the luminosity, our basic luminosity, and the luminosity of a path, and the luminosity of the fruition. Doesn't mean these three, the luminosities are completely different, these are all same. There's only one luminosity, but why these three? Because when you have not recognized, when you recognize half, and when you recognize fully. So this is we call the basic path and the fruition. So at the time of your death, so you are completely completed your realization. So sometimes there is no birth, so you are totally free. If you are not completed, then come back again. That's not another problem. I'm sorry. But it's okay, still enjoyable. Okay. I think if you have intellectual understanding only, so then this kind of a problem comes. But once you truly realized your own true nature of mind, so whatsoever, then from there you can have all kinds of activities, and I'm quite sure that these activities no longer will disturb you at all. So, and at the same time, what I'm trying to tell you is, because once you realized the true nature of mind or awakened your mind, then there's no chance to recollapse at all. So there's no story such says that someone is realized, but now he came back, or she came back with the full of anger and all these things. So because of the realization, the power of realization, the freedom is there. So from there, then all kinds of, like as a Dzogchen teaching always say that there's no anger, truly, but for the purpose of benefiting sentient beings, you can be angry also, but that anger is not the deluded anger. It's a skillful means that anger, so anger benefits sentient beings. Like a pride. And the Sutrayana always instruct you, oh, you should give up. Pride is not good. Pride is disturbance. But bodhisattvas, they always think that I am bodhisattva. That's good pride. And in the Vajrayana practice that we say, oh, I'm Tara. That's good pride. You can't say, oh, I'm not Tara at all. So if you think this way, say that, then you cannot achieve the ultimate Tara. So ultimate Tara achieved from the practice of a relative Tara. So therefore you have to define or distinguish between what is the base on the samsaric, the characteristic, which is very much related to our own ignorance, but the certain practice that you have made, and then from there you obtained or adopted the freedom. So this particular person will never never relapse. So there is no contradiction in between. I think so, but we have to see. Okay?
Bala